Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft Legion video. Today we're going to be looking at the Subtlety rogue and giving you an overview of the full spec and how it plays. If this video seems oddly familiar, don't worry, you're not going insane. It was up on my channel for about an hour. There was like 2 or 3 stupid mistakes that I made, and I also did this all video long, which made people feel ill, which was triply silly of me. So this video is it's the right version, it's the good version, it's, you know, Papa John's finest. What am I going to do throughout this video? We'll just give you an overview. So first of all, we'll cover the base abilities, then we'll expand to all the abilities, then the talents, then the artifact weapon, and I will conclude with my thoughts on the specs. So let's get right into it with the core abilities, which is actually helped out by this very handy little page that Blizzard have. So, first of all, our big thing is Shadow Dance. It's different now. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point spent to activate Shadow Dance for 3 seconds. Shadow Dance allows access to all of your stealth-based abilities, but will not break when you auto-attack or take damage. Now, the funny thing is that it gives you access to your stealth-based abilities, it shunts you into your stealth action bar, but in regards to some things, it doesn't count as stealth. So we've got this thing, Subterfuge. Your abilities requiring stealth can be used for 3 seconds after your stealth breaks. This does not work with Shadow Dance currently, but, as an example, one of your things here, where are we? Master of the Shadows, you immediately gain 60 energy when you enter stealth. That does work with Shadow Dance, which is a little bit confusing, and maybe there are some consistencies that Blizzard need to shore up there. And and that might affect how the spec is. But anyway, your core is like with many rogue specs, well, all of them pretty much. You're building up combo points, you're spending combo points. What's your main builder? I'm glad you asked. It's backstab, 35 energy. You stab the target, dealing 9,100 physical damage. That damage is increased by 30% if you are behind your target, and it gives you 1 combo point. So that's pretty cool. Now then, you're probably thinking, well, we keep on weaving into stealth due to Shadow Dance, or at least getting access to our stealth abilities. What ability does that involve us using? That involves us using Shadow Strike. This is our stealth generator ability. I'm just going to move away from that character, where their spellcasting noises are a little bit loud. So Shadow Strike, 40 energy. You strike through the shadows, appearing behind your target, dealing 16,800 physical damage, giving you 1 combo point. Pretty similar to backstab. You know, it's giving you a combo point, doing a bunch of damage, usable in stealth. We then have Nightblade. This is a finisher, up to 5 points. It's a dot, so that's up to 28,500 damage over 16 seconds. But it's got the added bonus that whenever you attack that target with the Nightblade debuff on, they will have their movement speed reduced by 50% for 8 seconds, which is pretty cool. We then move on to Eviscerate. This is your big, raw damage thing. 35 energy, 1 to 5 combo points, and, up to 61,800 damage. Of course, you will want to be using this at 5 combo points because Shadow Dance will have a 100% proc chance at 5 combo points. And then Master of the Shadows, you immediately gain 60 energy when you enter stealth. What this means is that whenever your Shadow Dance goes off, you get 60 energy back. What does that look like in gameplay? Well, I'm glad you asked. Another awesome thing about Shadow Strike, 30-yard range, you warp behind your target. So let's just go right into it. So we hit Shadow Strike. We then move into backstabbing our target. And, you know what, let's just, we'll put our Nightblade on, which puts us back into our, kind of faux stealth, which means we do a Shadow Strike, and then we continue backstabbing, and then we move that into an Eviscerate. And you can see any time that I go into stealth, so if you watch my energy bar, now it pops up. And that is basically how this plays. In many ways, you are kind of just hitting 1 and 2 a lot, but that is essentially the very core of the spec. Of course, that is expanded upon by talents and many other different things. And one of the big parts of being a rogue is you have loads of cool utility which give you more things to do in a fight. So let's just go through all abilities. Backstab, I've already covered that. Evasion increases your dodge by 100% for 10 seconds, 2-minute cooldown. Cheap Shot, 40 energy, stuns the target for 4 seconds, gives you 2 combo points. I suppose for the PvP people, super useful. If you are, maybe dealing with some trash in a raid, super useful. If you are out in the world, I think super useful as well. Because you'll actually be able to use this so many different times. And yeah, diminishing returns and all that do exist, but think about it. A regular mob, if you're going to be stunning it for 4 seconds, like, that's going to have that mob pretty significantly dead based on how fast stuff tends to die in the open world of World of Warcraft. And of course, it also does give you 2 combo points, which is nice and fast in terms of your combo point generation. Eviscerate, I've already covered it. Cloak of Shadows, 1.5 minute cooldown, gives you a moment of magical immunity, instantly removing all harmful spell effects. The cloak then lingers, causing you to resist harmful effects for 5 seconds. It's such a good ability, super useful utility, allows you to do some really badass things. Great, like, just great for the raid, you know, to have a rogue who can exploit that and do things with it. Crimson Vial, 30 energy, 30 second cooldown, instantly gives you 30% of your health back, super handy. And then Feint, 20 energy, perform an evasive maneuver, reducing damage taken from area of effect by 50%, and then, due to a talent, all damage taken by 30% for 5 seconds, but that talent is, you know, it's obviously a talent, it's not a baseline. We've got Distract, this will, you know, cause a target to face another direction, useful for if you're sleuthing around in stealth. There's Kick, which is your interrupt on a 15-second cooldown. Kidney Shot, finisher move, 25 energy, stuns the target for up to 6 seconds. Pretty useful. Enveloping Shadows is a talent which I shall cover in the next section of this video. Nightblade, which I've already covered. Shadow Strike, which I've already covered. Shuriken Storm, which is Blade Flurry, but with some, I think, cooler spell effects. And then we've got Shuriken Toss. Shuriken Storm will give you 1 combo point for every target hit, which is super handy. Shuriken Toss is a ranged combo point generator. Doesn't do much damage, but it's better than nothing if you're at range. We've got Sap, which is pretty much the same. Pickpocket, which is the same. Sprint, which is the same. 30-second cooldown. Shadow Blade, so you draw upon the surrounding shadows to empower your weapons, causing auto attacks to do pure shadow damage. That's very big. Armor will decrease physical damage. It won't decrease shadow damage, so that's super good. And your combo point generating abilities to generate an additional combo point when used. So you're getting twice as much combo points and you're doing shadow damage. Lots of damage, only lasts for 5 seconds. However, one of your artifact traits will extend that by an additional 9 seconds. We then have Shadow Step. Oh, I love Shadow Step. So I click this and boom, I pop over to a target. So you step through the shadows, appear behind your target, and then you gain 70% movement speed for 2 seconds. We then got Vanish. This will pop you into stealth, and then for 3 seconds after that, harmful effects and attacks won't break you out of stealth. Well, damage received anyway, so that's Vanish, and that pretty much moves us onto all of our different passives. I'm only going to cover the baseline passives here, so Shadow Techniques. Auto attacks have a chance to generate a combo point. In my testing, this isn't happening. So that is going to have an effect on how this spec feels to play. It will be faster when you get your hands on it. We've got Shadow Focus is a talent. Shadow Dance, which I've already covered. Your Mastery is Executioner, 92% extra damage done by your finishing moves. Relentless Strike, it says passive here, it is a talent. We've also got Master of Shadows, that means you immediately gain 60 energy when you enter stealth. Fleet-footed, movement speed increased by 15%, and you take reduced falling damage. And then Elusiveness, which is what was buffing up Feint, which we kind of covered and crossed into earlier. Let's tear our way through the talent. So we've got Master of Subtlety. Attacks made when stealthed and for 6 seconds after breaking stealth cause an additional 10% damage. So currently if I just pop into stealth and I do an attack, you can see, there you go, Master of Subtlety, damage increased by 10%. And if I run up to the target here and put myself into, that's my Shadow Step, it's giving it to me there and afterwards. So you can actually maintain a rather high uptime of Master of Subtlety because of Shadow Dance. So you're basically always getting that 10% extra. Weapon Master abilities have a 6% chance to hit the target twice each time that they deal damage. And then Gloomblade, 35 energy, and infuse your weapon with shadowy energies to stab the target, causing 16,600 shadow damage. Shadow damage, very important. And awarding 1 combo point, replaces Backstab. It does replace that gameplay with Backstab where it's more effective from behind the target. But other than that, it costs the same amount and it does more damage, so that's pretty much what's going on with Gloomblade. It seems like the kind of thing where you just take it baseline, you can't really go wrong because you're always going to be hitting that button. Backstab is, I'd say, literally your most hit button. So there's that now. Let's move on to Night Stalker. When stealthed, you move 20% faster, and abilities deal 50% more damage. This means that you are going to be doing a pretty insane Shadow Strike whenever you are in stealth. We've got Subterfuge, which I think I've already covered, but basically your abilities requiring stealth can be used for 3 seconds after stealth breaks. So here's Shadow Strike. I use it, and oh, look at this. I can still continue to use it. Pretty darn cool. Now, do note that I've currently got that enabled. That does not, as you can see there, did not count for my Shadow Dance. Sort of faux stealth. That's what I like to call it. Now, there are some things for which Shadow Dance does seem to count as stealth, some things that it doesn't. For Subterfuge, it doesn't. They probably want to clear that up. Shadow Focus abilities cost 50% less energy while you are stealth. I like to go for that because it really does make things feel quite fast. So that's kind of cool. We've got Deeper Stratagem. You may have a maximum of 6 combo points, and your finishing moves consume up to 6 combo points. So let's have a look at, say, our Eviscerate. It's got a 6th combo point that does 74,200 damage. Quite powerful. We then have Anticipation. Anticipation causes you to be able to pull up to 8 combo points in total, but your finishers will consume a maximum of 5 combo points. We then have Vigor, increases maximum energy by 50 and base energy regen by 10%. That generally just will increase the overall pace of how the spec plays. We move on to Soothing Darkness. You heal 3% maximum life for every 1 second that you're in stealth. There's then Elusiveness, which just means that your feint will reduce all damage taken by 30% for 5 seconds. We then have Cheat Death. Fatal attacks instead reduce you to 7% max health, and for 3 seconds afterwards you take 85% reduced damage. Cannot trigger more often than once per 2 minutes. We move on to another kind of utility tier in a way. Very useful for PvP though. Strike from the Shadows. Shadow Strike now also stuns the target for 2 seconds. You're using a Shadow Strike, I'd say, every 7 seconds as a part of your rotation, so that's quite a bit of stunning going on. We've got Prey on the Weak. Enemies disabled with your Kidney Shot, Cheap Shot, or Sap take 10% increased damage from all sources. I was stupid enough to think that for some reason people would want to ensure uptime in this, and you know, to affect all raid members, but it's a stun on a raid boss. What was I thinking? I don't know. That just goes to show that when you're making 4 videos in a day because you got busy things for the whole weekend, you can't make stuff. Yeah, I should have paced that out. Sorry about that. So there's Prey in the Weak. Let's move on to Tangled Shadow. Nightblade now decreases the target's movement speed by an additional 20%. Nightblade, just to reacquaint you, is this, which is a dot that causes attacks on the target to also reduce their movement speed. Default of 50%, but with this, that will be 70%. We move on to Premeditation. Cheap Shot and Shadow Strike generate an additional 1 combo point, so with this active, your Cheap Shot will generate 3 combo points, and your Shadow Strike will generate 2 combo points. We've got Alacrity, so your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to grant 1% haste for 20 seconds, stacking up to 25 times. What does this mean? Basically, after you do 25 finisher moves, you will have 20% or 25% additional haste. So it's kind of like having a very soft heroism. So that on top of heroism is going to feel pretty mental. We then have Enveloping Shadows, a finishing move that consumes combo points to generate twice as many combo points over time. Lasts longer per combo points spent. So this is kind of cool. If I run in here, and we will build our way up to 5, and then I shall click this, and then we run away and see what happens. As you can see, combo points will begin to appear. I put 5 combo points in, which means that I'll get 10 back. So overall, that's pretty efficient. I think it's a really cool spell. That's something you'll be wanting to maintain uptime for. There you go, generating 1 combo point every 2 seconds. I think that's a really cool ability. It gives you another thing to maintain, which I like in a certain amount. I don't want it to go crazy. What I do think is cool about this, though, is as long as uptime is maintained, you're going to be getting way more combo points, which means you're going to be having a faster pace for your spec, which I think is really cool. We move on to Relentless Strike. You gain an additional 40 energy when you enter stealth, on top of the 60 you already get, so you get 100 energy whenever you enter stealth. Of course, if your maximum, without Vigor is 100 energy, then you might actually waste some of that. So maybe if you're going with that, you want to have Vigor on so that you're not wasting the additional energy that you get. We've also got Marked for Death, 30-yard range, 1 minute cooldown. You mark the target, instantly generating 5 combo points. Let's see what that looks like. There you go, kind of boring. What it does do, though, is it will reset its cooldown if that target dies within a minute. So that's a useful DPS cooldown. And of course, it's 1 minute cooldown. You'll be able to use it quite a bit. And then there's Death from Above. This is a really cool talent, but it's one of those ones that you sometimes find is kind of hard to fit into your rotation. I actually can't enable it because Marked for Death is on cooldown, but we'll talk about it now. 50 energy, 1 to 5 combo points. It will cause you to do a whole bunch of flippy twirls and cool things, like a sort of 2-part attack. It's really cool looking, does good damage, and then you fly down to the ground and do an Eviscerate based on the amount of combo points that you spent when you use this, which does 50% more damage. It is a bit of a powerhouse, though. What you can find is it's a little bit tricky to roll into your rotation. However, it's a 20-second cooldown. Regular Eviscerate is still there if you need to use it. It costs 35 energy. This costs 50 energy. And now I can show you what it's like now that Marked for Death is off cooldown. So we run in here. I shall do a whole bunch of ruthless attackings. And you know what? We will activate Enveloping Shadows. And, instead of things, we'll be using Marked for Death. Death from Above. You can see there that 4 times, shortly after using Stealth, it was only costing me 25 energy. It's a little bit funny. I'm finding that Shadow Focus is sometimes usable slightly after you come out of your, you actually come out of your Shadow Step. Now, the English on that says while you are stealth, not after you are stealth. It's not like, say, Master of Subtlety, which persists after stealth. So that might be a bug, might be a problem. But there you go. Pretty cool looking ability. Currently, I mean, it should have shot me down towards the target there instead of me doing that animation up in the air. So not 100% working. It does cost more energy, though. It's a little bit harder to work into your rotation because of that, but it's a damage increase if you can be using it as close to cooldown as you can. However, there are also some movement concerns, which is one of the things that affected its popularity in Warlords of Draenor. Let's talk about Artifact Weapon, Gorfang. What's its passive? Your attacks apply Withering Bite, dealing 1000 shadow damage with a chance to trigger shadowy techniques. Now, Shadow Techniques is what will give you an additional combo point on your auto attack. However, I have found this isn't working, so I'm just going to, while I'm explaining all of this, be attacking this target. And you tell me if combo points just start appearing out of nowhere, because I haven't seen it. Now, just to be triply sure that I'm right with all of that, I'm just going to sit here for like a minute or two and continue to use my abilities. If I see anything generating points out of the ordinary, I'll tell you, but through all of my testing with the spec, which at this stage has been quite bloody extensive, that has not actually been working. So what I should be seeing is additional combo points being generated, and I'm currently not seeing that. I haven't really seen that happen all video, so I'm just assuming that this is not currently implemented. And I have seen reports from other people, other testers, saying the mechanics of sub are not properly implemented at the minute. The spec will feel faster when that is in effect, and will also feel faster when, of course, Shadow Techniques itself is working. Never mind the Artifact Weapon. Its Artifact-like weapon ability is Gormaw's Bite. This will lash out the target, inflicting shadow damage and reducing movement speed by 80%. So if I use that, you can see, does some damage, reduces movement speed. Right now, pretty boring. I hope they do something more interesting with that. We've got a few things here, like a Carries Soul. So whenever you use an opener, a Carries Soul appears for 4 seconds later and repeats that opener. Shadow Nova, whenever you use an opener, a Shadow Clone appears and assists you in attacking the target. And then Finality, after using a finisher, your next finisher of that type is empowered. So if I was to use an Eviscerate, this would make my next Eviscerate better, just kind of cool. As for the minor traits, Demon's Kiss increases the damage of Nightblade by 5% per point. Energetic Stabbing, openers have a chance to refund 5 energies, that's 15 once you've got 3 points, which means, it'll be a pretty fast-paced spec if that's proccing all the time. Second Shuriken, whenever you enter stealth, you gain a shield equal to 25% of your artifact power. However, Embrace the Darkness gives you a shield equal to your attack power on stealth, so there's a bit of overlap there, probably just, dev things. Precision Strikes increases the damage dealt by Shadow Strike by 10%. Demon's Kiss increases the damage of Nightblade by 5%, up to 15 once you put points in. Fortune's Bite, your chance of triggering Shadow Techniques is increased by 10%. That will be up to 30%, so that will really increase the pace of how the game plays. We've got the Quiet Knife, increases the damage of Backstab by 9%. faster than light. After sprinting for 3 seconds without taking damage, you vanish, which I think is very awesome. Obviously, say like Vanish and Subterfuge currently is a nice little DPS increase. There's Ghost Armor, you just take less damage. I'm assuming they need to throw the actual maths in there. Cat's Walk, you're fleet-footed, causes you to move 15% faster, and you're immune to fall damage. Pretty darn good. Soul Shadows increases the duration of Shadow Blades by 9 seconds on top of its base 5, so it will last a lot longer. Gut Ripper increases the critical strike chance of Eviscerate by 5%. So that is pretty much overall what you are looking at for the Subtlety Rogue. I like the idea of Shadow Dance. I think this like Legion version is cool. I just wish they do more with it. And I suppose they were my thoughts in the original video. They're pretty much my thoughts now. There are cool ideas that are going on with Shadow Dance and you weaving in and out of the shadows. However, you know, I'm hitting 1 on my keyboard with Backstab, and you know, now I enter Shadow Dance and I'm still hitting 1. I mean, that's kind of like it's like a 1-button macro if you know what I mean, in terms of what it's doing there. I wish there was maybe something more interactive. Maybe there was a more interesting decision. Maybe you had something which would benefit your future attacks that you could only do in stealth, and maybe there was a decision to be made there whenever you got your Shadow Dance, so that whenever you went into Shadow Dance you had an additional extra sort of cognitive thing to do, as opposed to just, you know, I'm hitting 1, then I hit 2, that's putting me into Shadow Dance, I hit 1 again, now I'm out of Shadow Dance, I continue hitting 1. You know, the actual inputs there aren't super fun. They're all kind of samey. Now that said, you do get to do really badass things. You know, you're sprinting, you're doing your evasion, Cloak of Shadows. You can use Feint to survive your AoE stuff, so you can do some really badass utility things for your raid, which I think is super fun. You've got a lot of stun mechanics in there for the PvP players, so there definitely is lots of stuff going on here and lots of potential. I just think the core rotation could be a little bit more interesting. I've seen some reports from existing sub players that it feels bland at the minute, so if you're a sub player on live, please let me know what you think about this spec. Currently, it's what I said as the tagline for the original video. Needs more for its base rotation for me, but it's got great potential and super cool ideas. I'm really keen to see where this goes as the alpha progresses, but that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.